god. What is this? Okay.
We are live.
Uh-oh.
I know.
Sounds like
Goodness.
trouble.
Right? Truly, truly, truly. My goodness. I'm just going to jump into LinkedIn because I can't quite see everything from StreamYard if everyone's here. So, but we can also just kind of keep talking. So, how's your day going?
Oh, put it on me, huh?
I will.
Fabulous. It's
Good.
fantastic, actually. I woke up this morning, as we all did, clearly, because we're here.
As one does.
But I thought this morning when I woke up, I was like, today's going to be a fantastic day. And I literally said that out loud to the dogs as I was coming downstairs. And they looked at me oddly, but I chose that today as we can, right?
Absolutely. Yep. And things will come and go. And
yeah, of course.
It is the way that it is. So yeah, we can kind of dive into this and just get started a little introduction here. So I'm Eileen Grimes. I am the Chief Growth Officer for Jalen Consulting. And we just have a lot of stuff that we are so excited about sharing, the different programming and things that we've been working on. And we wanted to take the opportunity to weekly just kind of talk about some of that stuff in a live experience with people and some of the knowledge and things that Jen and I get to talk about every day, to share some of those moments with you. Is sometimes, more often than not, there's definitely something to laugh with and about. So
look, it is my mantra. And I think if you know anything about me, you know this. If we're not having fun, we're doing it wrong. So, and I do want to kick this off first by thanking you for being here with me and for taking on this very large responsibility of keeping me in order because I can't do it. So I appreciate you for that. But I have to say, the other day when we were working and we were going through some planning and doing some stuff, and when we were finished, we spent a lot of time together that day. On right on here and doing all of this and okay, we got to work on this for this client and we were going through all the things, and at the end you looked straight in the camera and you said, I had a lot of fun today. And I will tell you, nothing else makes me happier than feeling like we can show up and do our work in a positive way and laugh more often than not. That's what it's about. And I'm just so lucky. I feel so lucky to be able to do work that I absolutely adore every single day and to do it with someone like you. So thank you.
Same. I completely agree. And I definitely remember that moment because I did feel that immensely. So
good stuff.
Yeah, it's true. So since I introduced myself, why don't you do the same?
Hello, everyone. I'm Jen Kronberger. And if you're finding me somehow, maybe you know me, maybe you don't. That's a story for another day. But today, I am the founder and chief inspiration officer of Jalen Consulting Group. And our goal, not our job, I would say, but our goal is to make life just a little bit easier for the people around us. I think we go into this work together to really focus on, obviously, culture, leadership, and performance is kind of our trifecta. But I think we come at it at such a different angle. My background, my master's degree is in sports and human performance psychology. Eileen's master's is in education. And really understanding learning. So we come at it from this little bit of this kind of sciencey background as well of, how the brain works and how connection works in the brain with people, with learning, with, all of the things we do on a given day. And it's important to understand how that stuff shows up. So I always get geeked out when we talk about this stuff.
Absolutely. And it's been fun to kind of really highlight this too is been going forward. We've been really focusing even more on that. From my background in teaching, also too with motivation and a lot of that stuff. We've had a lot of great conversations, and how that integrates into leadership. And so, when we chose the topic today, so the neuroscience of connection, we thought that, what a great thing to have for leaders to really understand how this works and the importance of it. So, we'll kick it off here first with, why, Jen, why did we choose this? Why was this the topic that we chose to talk about?
Right. We're just diving right in, everyone. This isn't just like, hey, meet us. No, that's not how we do this. We're all in. Why are we talking about this? Because we need to be talking about this, quite frankly. I think we're really in this kind of crisis situation right now regarding, and in this country specifically, but regarding workplace engagement, morale, toxicity. I'm seeing all of these things bubble up as we're working with some of our clients and others, and just understanding, when Gallup comes out every year with their State of the Global Workplace report, and the one that came out for 2023 wasn't a good story. We're seeing the same kind of trajectory. Think back, we had the Great Resignation, and then what was last year? Quiet quitting. This year, it's the Great Disconnect. It's the Great Disconnection, really, is I think where we are. What's driving this crisis, I think, is really looking at how we've changed so much. There was this poll that was done in a group of corporate employees, and this was eye-opening, because almost half of them said the workplace has become unrecognizable over the last 12 months. It's just different, right? There's higher turnover, there's less bodies in physical spaces, equating to less social gatherings, equating to less connection. So we're seeing this come out of these last few years that I don't foresee any of that changing anytime soon. But what can and needs to change, I think, is our response, or our narrative, or our perception around these things. What story are we telling around this kind of hybrid environment that's not serving us, maybe, right? Or, what can we do to make sure that we're still finding those moments to connect in the midst of these busy, ongoing virtual days, right? I believe strongly that this idea of connection and community is what's going to save us. And I think we have to talk about this stuff. We have to understand why we are where we are and why we do the things we do, but understand the power of connection. I think that's everything.
Absolutely. Well, and so you're saying we have to talk about this stuff. And so you and I have we use the phrase courageous conversations, right? Yeah. And within that, there are moments that are essential to connection that we actually might miss, because we don't approach those conversations. What is it, when we're talking about the neuroscience piece of that, what is it about the avoidance part that we're missing? Or what is it that people need to understand about why we avoid having those moments when real connection could be built?
So I think, and what I've seen in all of this, in my study of this kind of neuroscience of connection in business, so much of these responses and kind of like navigating around this narrative that we're telling and that we end up believing, owning, and then actually living it out, right? It's based on us saying things like, well, that's just the way it is, or it's the way I was told, it's always how we've done things, or that's just how they are. We've all said it, we've all heard it. But instead, I think we have to focus on being curious more often than not, asking hard questions, having the difficult conversations that are so often the last thing we want to do, right? So let's break down real quick why we avoid them, because I think this was eye-opening for me when I learned this. Obviously, this kind of connection that's made is fascinating. You've heard words, I'm sure. If you're here with us, you probably have heard the words, we're hardwired for connection, right? Those aren't just words, that we actually really are. And there's an answer rooted deeply, I think, in neuroscience that really kind of explains this, why we try to avoid them. And it's not just you, it's all of us, because this is how we're wired. So think about this: when two people agree on a subject, right, which hopefully you've had at some point in your life, but that sensory based area of the brain exhibits what's called neural coupling or synchrony. And because our brains are wired this way, we're always looking for situations like these, right? The ones that match up, the ones that feel right. I call it the teacup in the saucer, right? It's like when you fit it just right, it just kind of clicks. We look for those. That's actually what we're constantly seeking for, okay? When in disagreement, however, our brain is much more active because it's going after trying to find those things. That's exhausting to us, which is why when you're out of synchrony, when you're having some sort of disharmony or something going on with a coworker or at home or whatever, when this cognitive disharmony shows up, it shows up as disconnection, right? And this is something that the brain naturally works really hard to avoid because of the perceived hard work that we know it takes to actually do that. So we're constantly trying to reduce the cognitive load by trying to seek out the things that agree. This is why I think, you see, we avoid those conversations because our brain tells us, oh, that's too hard, because we might not sync on this. And because we may not sync, I'm going to go in the other direction. So there really is science behind why it's so difficult to have those conversations.
Yeah, and when we think about too, that we talk about cognitive load, and who here or who is listening doesn't already have a huge cognitive load in the work that they're doing, and how much is already coming, to then ask to go above and beyond that, to then have these types of courageous conversations that could potentially add to that, or that's what our brain is seeing and thinking. So there's a whole lot, and like we talked about, that disengagement and burnout, it's real, and just to understand the neuroscience behind that is incredibly powerful. So okay, that's the brain. That's what happens in the brain. But what happens when we don't have those conversations? So our brain is kind of, we're having this disharmony and cognitive load that we're concerned about. So what happens when you just don't have those conversations then?
So, and this is a pattern that I see, obviously, working with larger companies, especially, but any company. I mean, we all go through this, and I think there are times of extreme change and movement. But I think what happens when you lose transparency, right? You avoid the conversation. You don't have the courageous conversation or the difficult conversation, and then we lose trust immediately. And the problem with that is once we lose, you can lose trust like that, but you can't gain it like that, right? That's built up over time and different circumstances. So I think understanding when we're shying away, when we're actually letting our brain, or that kind of lower brain, dictate, this doesn't feel good, I don't want to do this, we lose trust by not being transparent and doing that. But we also aren't allowing for inclusion and belonging to happen because, we're not engaging in some of these more vulnerable situations or conversations. People then feel excluded, they feel ostracized, they feel like, oh, I don't matter because you're not sharing that information with me, right? I can't tell you how many times I've heard people talk about that kind of disconnect of trust. I just had a conversation the other day, actually, with a group of people who was going through this. We get messages trickled down, right? As we all know how this goes.
Oh yeah.
And it's a problem because it's not the same messaging. And so these people feel this way. These people, oh, well, why do they get to do that and we don't get to do that? Well, because our boss said it differently. It's really amazing how quickly this kind of disintegrates when we're in this disconnect. And bottom line, innovation can't happen that way. Right? Trust doesn't exist in a vacuum. Like we can't, that doesn't matter. We have to have trust. The only way to get to trust and vulnerability and authenticity and all these things that we talk about is to make sure that, we're creating these safe spaces to do so. Right? We can't innovate. We can't do all these things if it doesn't feel good.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things we were talking about too is what does this look like?
Mm-hmm.
And how does it show up at work when we have these courageous conversations? It means that, you start to see innovation because people are vulnerable enough to be able to say, something's not working right,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
something's not working in the way that it could be that much better.
Yep.
And I feel the trust and psychological safety that I can share and suggest something to make this even better. So if you create that foundation within that culture,
Yeah.
those kind of ideas start to just happen because people feel the space for it. The other piece too, and this, from the educational side of things, when we have those spaces with this growth mindset, right? So we know that other people have our best interests at heart. So we have courageous conversations, encouraging each other to grow. It's not about avoiding difficult
Right.
topics in any way, shape, or form. It's sharing when we have something to say. I could see that you can become even greater or have learned something additionally from a conversation we had before, and that allows people to grow and develop, right? Like that's what we want from our people.
That's right.
And we call this, there's the zone of proximal development in education, and so it's that space between our comfort zone of staying where we are
Yep.
and that new knowledge and learning. And so to go between there,
It's scary.
it is so scary. It
That's where
requires
fear is, right? I mean, that's where fear lives, in that space.
It is, because that is where we're going to fail. Not
Yeah.
if we fail, not we
Right.
might fail. In learning, we will fail. We are
Yeah.
not going to do it right away because we don't know. And so to have that space of trust and to have a community of colleagues that we know are going to continue to push us and support us in that is
Yep.
incredibly powerful. And what organization doesn't want their people to grow and develop with
Right.
the speed of technology and everything going as it is? We need people to continue learning.
Yeah.
So, one of the things you and I have talked about too is, so this is great. All of this is great. This is what happens when it does show up, and this is why things are happening. What is one of the tools that leaders can really use to encourage
Mm.
this? What is it that they can do to set up these spaces?
I think one of the most important things we do as leaders is we model the behavior. We lead the way in saying, I'm going to go first. I'm going to be vulnerable first. I'm going to kind of, not just dip my toe in the deep end, but I'm going in.
Yeah.
And it's about, and I tell people this all the time, become a professional storyteller. And you don't have to make stuff up. Every single one of us has our own story. And, people always joke about this, but it's true. Most people know how to talk about themselves and maybe even like talking about themselves. Some too much, but, but we have to become really good storytellers. We have to learn how to tell the story of all of our experiences so that other people feel safe in doing that too. Other people feel like they can show up in that vulnerable space. That's what drives connection, right? That's what brings, even if we can disagree on a topic, but we can still find that common ground together to drive that connection. And I think that, going back to where we started is why we have to be talking about this.
Yeah.
Become a storyteller.
And what is it that we were talking the other day about storytelling? What is it about the brain? What happens in the brain when someone is storytelling?
It's amazing. They've done these functional MRIs and they've shown where the brain, we've all been in situations where we see PowerPoint after PowerPoint after PowerPoint, right? And it's numbers and it's data and everyone's like, okay.
Right.
Even people who are into numbers and data are still right.
Me.
It's a different part of the brain. So there's a little bit that lights up. Here's the numbers, the data. Great. Okay. But when we're storytelling, when we're hearing a story, much more of our brain lights up. Yep. Our brain actually is triggered into the event, and we don't even know, really, the brain doesn't know if that thing is actually really happening right now to that person or that they're just telling us about it. That's where we go when we think about, because we can picture, someone talks about, I'm walking down the road, it was really dark. And and it was really quiet and I could see the stars. Tell me you didn't just picture that.
I definitely did.
You know, we think in pictures, right? So you know exactly what that looks like. That's powerful. That's how we move people, you know, to be able to do things and to think creatively, because we all do that differently. But we have to be able to use stories to get there. That drives connection in the brain.
Yeah. I mean, it's just incredible to really understand that, and how we're, you know, there's the back and forth and the way that mirror neurons work and all of these
Yep.
things too, you know, to be able to really connect with each other in this really deep way. So,
Awesome.
yeah, can you believe it? We went through our first live, Jeff.
I know. That was fun.
So for any of you that are listening right now, one, you know, definitely reach out if there's topics that you're interested in that, I mean, Jen and I already have a list of things we definitely want to talk about. We're going to be jumping on here every week, just to kind of bring up some of the things that we've talked about for the week, or things that we think would be really incredibly powerful to share with you all. And if there are things that you would like to hear about, that we can share, definitely feel free to reach out to us, because we would love to address some of those as well. So just want to put that out there. And then, so as I was talking about in the beginning, we have many great things going on. And one of those things that we've been working on for quite a while now is this 8-week course, this 8-week accelerator that we've got starting in October. And so we invite you to take a look at that. You know, like we said, you know, this is really the work that we're doing in this space, is the integration of these skills with performance, and combining all of that to create powerful leaders who have the tools to be able to move forward. So, you know,
And it's a gift.
And do you want to tell them what the gift is?
Yes, I turned 50 this year. So for my big 50 birthday, I'm giving you 50% off of what the fee would normally be, what the investment normally would be. So happy birthday.
Yes.
To all of you in honor of my 50th.
Yeah.
Join us. It's going to be so much fun. And really, I'm just so excited to do this 8-week with you all. So
definitely. And we will continue to come back
see us
through this time. And cannot wait to see you all again next week. We will post up, I think we're talking about doing Mondays kind of going forward, I think. So
everyone loves Mondays.
What's that?
Everyone loves Mondays.
Everyone loves a Monday.
So we're going to make Monday special.
Yeah. So thank you. Thank you all for being here so much. Have a beautiful rest of your Friday Eve, and we will see you soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.